Hello friends, and welcome to the latest issue of the Wiser newsletter. This week we have a Wiser in 5 special looking at the healthcare market and particularly BigTech's interest in it. And the question is, why are Amazon, Apple and Alphabet, aka Google, all investing so heavily into healthcare? Watch this episode and I'm going to explain what the 3 big tech giants are doing in healthcare. If you like what you've seen, subscribe on the YouTube channel, or if you're listening on the audio blog, hit the little heart button to let us know that you've enjoyed this particular issue. Now, let's get started. When we look at the healthcare market globally, it is expected to be around $9.7 trillion within the next couple of years. But the question is, why are Amazon, Apple and Alphabet all investing so heavily into this marketplace? Well, A, because it's big. To sustain their top line growth rates in a post-pandemic world, all 3 have to go after the big elephants, and the global healthcare market is forecast to be $9.7 trillion by 2023. Number 2, it also happens to be overweight. The US spends $937 per capita on healthcare administration compared to an average of $173 for the wealthiest nations in the world, according to the OECD. And third, because it's unpopular. Using NPS as a measure of customer satisfaction, healthcare figures near the bottom of the list according to industry listings by Relentley and Delighted. However, the way they go about it differs between these 3 big tech giants. For Amazon, it is all about leveraging their costs and turning them into profit centers. In 2020, Amazon hired more people in less time than any other US corporation ever. For Apple, it's all about the attention economy and getting more of yours as they shift from a product revenue business to a subscription services business. And for Alphabet, it's all about the data, collecting it, analyzing it, and then using it for better outcomes using predictive analytics and artificial intelligence. And for good measure, at the end of the video, I couldn't help but include the Jetsons, the 1960s comic strip of the space family living in the mid-21st century, which is about 50 years from now. They predicted telemedicine, flat-screen TVs, drones and pill-sized cameras to survey your insides, but that's to come, so watch the end of the video for that one. So first let's look at big tech. For big tech to be disruptive, they need to do 2 things really well. First, they need to disintermediate the traditional supply chain and take a service or product directly to the consumer. For this, think Amazon and home delivery, cutting out the high street. 2, they have to deliver that product or service with a 10 times improvement. Again, think Amazon, free next day delivery of the toothbrush that you ordered at 9 p.m. last night. Unthinkable 25 years ago. So when you look at industries to find out which ones are ripe for disruption, you look for key indicators from a macro perspective. And one of these is customer satisfaction, namely a low net promoter score as a key indicator of fertile opportunities. Now, which industry stands out when it comes to low NPS in 2020? Certainly in the United States at least. It's healthcare. Added on top of that, you've got skyrocketing US healthcare costs. The amount of money that the United States spends on healthcare is almost twice the average for the wealthiest nations. Across the OECD nations, which excludes the poorest in the world, the average spend is around 8.6% of GDP. However, the United States spends almost twice that at 17% of GDP on healthcare. This equates to a per capita spend that is just over $11,000 compared to an average of under $5,500. And it's getting worse. Almost 1/5 of the United States economy goes on healthcare, and it is forecast to continue to grow even more at over 5% per year for the next 5 years. Now, ironically, even though the US spends more relatively than anybody else on healthcare, it does not mean better health outcomes for Americans. According to the OECD, average life expectancy is almost 5 years longer if you live in Switzerland compared to the United States. Child mortality at birth is 5.8 out of 1,000, which places the USA 5th in the league table of OECD countries. In the calculation of potential years of life lost, which is a measure of preventable premature death, the United States is 4th on the list of nations. Now, this huge disproportion in high cost and low health outcomes is partly explained by the significant proportion of United States spending on administration. Again, according to the OECD, the United States spends 3 times more per capita on administration than any other wealthy nation. And yet it spends 3 times less on long-term healthcare than the Netherlands, who spend the most on looking after the healthcare of their population. Now, out of this, you've got the emergence of new digital services called telehealth and telemedicine. These are the new ways to provide healthcare services through the use of technology, whether that is through a more effective home delivery of prescriptions drugs, which is you see Amazon's purchase of PillPack, to in-home consultations, where approximately 2/3 of emergency room visits are avoidable, to AI-enabled tech, such as detecting brain tumours more effectively than human clinicians. According to McKinsey research, willingness amongst consumers to use telemedicine services has risen from 11% to 76% through the pandemic. The point is that these new healthcare services promise an explosion in innovation and opportunities, as well as a massive redistribution of value away from traditional providers to new tech firms. This is why big tech are all over the healthcare space. So first, let's look at Amazon Healthcare. Now, Amazon's move into healthcare is primarily driven by two dynamics. Number one, growth. Amazon has to find new ways to maintain the stellar top-line growth it has enjoyed over the past decade. Since 2017, Amazon's annual revenues have grown by 31%, 20.5%, 37%, 41% in the last 4 years. To sustain these levels of growth, Amazon has to go after big elephants, and there is none bigger than healthcare. Number two, employee costs. Unlike any other company in the history of the world, Amazon has made a virtue out of turning its largest costs into profit centers. First, it was fulfillment. When Bezos started out, this was their biggest cost. So Amazon built a delivery business that now makes money for Amazon. The same for cloud computing, as Amazon started to scale on the internet. Today, Amazon Web Services is the market leader and a $40 billion a year business. So what is Amazon's next biggest cost? Employees. In 2020, Amazon hired more people in less time than any other firm in American corporate history. They increased their workforce by 62% off the back of the pandemic and now employ over 1.3 million people worldwide. Providing employment benefits, including healthcare, to its employees is the next largest cost center that Bezos is going to turn into one that makes a profit. This is why you have Amazon Care. Now, early this year, Amazon announced that it was opening up its employee healthcare services, which is called Amazon Care, to its partners. Amazon Care provides both virtual healthcare services as well as physical drop-in medical centers. But the big prize is not the partners, but the 82% of American households who have an Amazon Prime account. And it's already started. In 2018, after Amazon bought PillPack for $750 million, they created Amazon Pharmacy. Now, Amazon manages the medication needs of Prime customers and delivers their drugs to their home for free. And there's more, because when it comes to health in the home, Amazon's Halo fitness tracker records sleep patterns, fitness levels, and even BMI. And then you have Alexa, the centerpiece of Amazon's in-home healthcare solution. Alexa has a range of HIPAA-compliant skills to enable customers to check on prescriptions or monitor blood sugar levels. Amazon even knows what you eat. They bought Whole Foods in 2018 for $13.7 billion, and now they have opened a chain of fresh food stores and provide free delivery of fresh food to Prime customers. The bottom line is that when it comes to understanding their customers' health, Amazon already knows so much. They know what you eat, they know what drugs you take, they know how well you sleep, they know how active you are, they even know how much you weigh. Now you add all of this to the ability to deliver virtual and physical healthcare services through Amazon Care, and I would not be surprised if Amazon become the de facto national health service and fill the gaping hole in the US health insurance system. Now let's look at Apple and Apple Healthcare. Apple is going through a strategic shift from a product-based revenues business to recurring services revenues. This means shifting from selling you a new iPhone every couple of years for a one-off payment of, say, $1,000 to selling you a bundle of services where you pay $50, $100, $200 a month, but every month. Like Amazon, Apple's motivation is top-line growth, but it is also about attention, getting and retaining yours for as long as they can. And you can see this in the Apple healthcare strategy. When you break it down, Apple's healthcare push falls into three areas that converge to make their healthcare strategy. First, they have hardware like the Apple Watch, iPad, and iPhone. Then they have software like the Health app and Research Kit. And then they have services like Fitness Plus, Apple's newest subscription service. Last year, Apple announced a blood oxygen sensor on the Apple Watch 6 and a partnership with the Singaporean government to incentivize Apple Watch users to be more healthy. And if you want to know how strategic this is to Apple, when Tim Cook was asked in 2019 what he believed Apple's greatest contribution to mankind would be, he said, and I quote, "It will all be about health." Now today, the majority of Apple's healthcare services revolve around the iPhone ecosystem, but that's changing, with wearables and services quickly picking up steam. iPhone sales have increased an average of about 2% year over year since 2017. However, services revenues have increased by about 22% year over year since 2017. Now, Apple doesn't break out revenue for the Apple Watch, but its wearables, home and accessories business, which includes AirPods, the watch and other accessories, has grown the most by far, increasing at an average of almost 9% quarter over quarter and nearly 35% year over year since 2017. This business unit earned $6.45 billion in revenue during the third quarter alone of 2020. Now, with these products and services creeping closer and closer to medicine and medical devices, Apple has had to meet new regulations from the Food and Drug Administration. Apple has found creative ways to get FDA approval without declaring itself as a medical device provider. For example, the Apple Watch has a de novo classification under the FDA for its ECG feature, meaning it is the first of its kind and therefore cannot be compared to anything else on the market regarding standards. Recently, Rockley Photonics, the British-based tech provider to Apple, revealed that the Apple Watch may soon measure blood glucose levels, your blood pressure, and even the alcohol levels in your blood. Now, Alphabet's focus in healthcare is based on its expertise in artificial intelligence, innovation, and the use of data. Their goal is to improve predictive analytics and precision medicine. An example of this was reported last year by DeepMind. They published a study in Nature that found Google's AI identified breast cancer from mammograms more accurately than doctors. Now, at the heart of Alphabet's healthcare business is a company called Verily. Verily's mission is to digitize healthcare. The key to all of Verily's various areas of interest is data, collecting it, analyzing it, discovering what's useful, and then figuring out how to turn it into inexpensive and accurate products that can be used to improve human health. Verily is involved in a wide range of disparate projects and initiatives, such as a preventative eye care company with Japan's Santen Pharmaceuticals, a virtual clinic for diabetes management, a joint venture with GlaxoSmithKline in neuromodulation, sleep management, cancer detection, tech-based health insurance, and machine learning drug discovery. A key area of activity for Verily in 2020 has been COVID testing and antibody research. In 2020 alone, Verily tested over 2 million Americans for COVID. In addition to Verily, Alphabet has a biotech innovation lab called Calico. Reported to have at least $2.5 billion in its R&D funding chest, Calico is looking into the process of aging, or more precisely, anti-aging. One example is their study of the aging process in yeast cells. Using their own miniature chemostat aging device, aka the MAD machine, Calico have purified 50 million-year-old cells in a single test tube. Essentially, this speeds up the aging process, and the scientists are able to observe the entire aging process in hundreds of thousands of single cells. From this, they can screen for life-extending factors and apply them to the yeast cells. Using computer vision technology and machine learning, they are able to observe the aging process. And to complete the Alphabet portfolio, you have fitness. Earlier this year, Alphabet completed the $2.1 billion acquisition of wearable fitness tracker Fitbit. The deal had been delayed over competition concerns that Google would use Fitbit user data to enhance the targeting of ads on Google's search engine. However, Google have been clear to say that the deal is about devices, not data. Essentially, this is all about owning the rails, and with Alphabet owning the Fitbit tracker, it can add its extensive expertise in smartwatch software in return for building its presence in the health and fitness space. Now finally, I promised you some Jetsons, and the vision that they gave us of what's to come back in 1962. Now, Jetsons back then was set 100 years in the future, and The Jetsons was a 1960s cartoon series that accurately portrayed a future with such innovations as drones, pill cameras, flat screen TVs, and digital media. This was exceptionally amazing considering they created The Jetsons at a time when colour TVs were just being introduced and the personal computer was still 13 years away from its launch. Writers Hanna-Barbera had a vision for the future that offered the convenience of modern technology but preserved the natural human interactions of its users. It was not uncommon to see Jane Jetson making dinner with the press of a button, followed by the meal being enjoyed as a family at the dinner table. Hanna-Barbera also envisioned the role telemedicine would play in the future delivery of healthcare. In the 10th episode of The Jetsons, aired in 1962, Jane Jetson calls up her doctor via video chat from their living room. The interaction was personal and similar to what would have been experienced at a family doctor's office in the 1960s. Hanna-Barbera assumed that all future video collaborations would be as natural and real as in this in-person interaction. That's all for this week. I hope you've enjoyed this issue of the Wiser newsletter. If you have, please hit the subscribe button and hit the little notification so you know when the next video is loaded. And if you're listening on the audio blog, please do leave us a comment or hit the heart button so at least we know that you've liked the show. And so till next time, and remember, insight and information gives you leverage. Thanks for listening.